I'm 2 years removed from that. Oh, we have time. We have time. Why rush it? Rush it. Rush it. Houston for sure. Whatever it is, if we're going to come up with. Hey. Who's always going to be the first to tell me we're live and we're okay? Professional grade maintenance, safety, and industrial products. Grainger, offering supplies and solutions for every industry. Plus, same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. Grainger can help you stay on top of your game. Not sure exactly what you need? Huddle up with Grainger's products. Yeah, this is the matchups for hockey in the first round. I think are different than basketball, because in basketball it's basketball, and hockey it's all about the goalie. Right. The goalie's got to be hot. In the NBA, what's going on, Glenn? Can you hear me good? Great. Ty, thank you. Ty usually says first. Because in hockey, you got to have a hot goalie. In the NBA, if Steph Curry comes out in the first game of 7 and has an off night, he's going to play better. In hockey, if your goalie opens up and he sucks, and he's getting roasted and you got to pull him, I mean, it's a disaster. Industrial Hardware is your one-stop place to shop with everything you need for your next project. Catering to plumbers, HVAC, and construction workers, they open early so you can pick up what you need before the shop. Dale Industrial Hardware on South Decatur between Trop and Russell. It's Chevy truck season, and there's no better time to do what you do best. No better time to get the job done than a Chevy Silverado with best-in-class. All right, everybody. I just had a big morning. I emceed a big event for the Raiders, their partnership summit with the head coach, the GM. So I got some good information here out of the gate. BetMGM, a proud sportsbook partner of the Vegas Golden Knights and the Las Vegas Raiders, has launched its new app. Sports fans in Nevada can get the state-of-the-art app with more betting options, more special features, and more convenience. Yeah, we got to get this thing rocking today. It's go time, man. It is go time with the draft. No more effing around, man. No more effing around. Trucker Mark, wow. Download the new and improved BetMGM and head over to any MGM resort on the Strip to verify your account. Find out why BetMGM is the king of sportsbooks. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to go responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21+ only. Without all, gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. MGMResorts.com/GameSense.
It's Ash from Sam and Ash Injury Law. At Sam and Ash, we don't just handle cases. We take care of people. Sam and I started this law firm to provide injury victims with unmatched customer service.
Yes, got Warren Sharp. Warren Sharp's a big guest, analytical guru. So we got Warren Sharp, Bucky Brooks, and Warren Moon today. It's better than a lot of national shows, but this is a national show because we're on the Raiders mobile app. I feel like having my bucket of Modelo's now and not waiting for Friday. And Fish is in town. Danny, are you a Fish guy? Never heard of Fish. Wow. Wow, you never heard of the band Fish. Wow, we got Glenn from Springfield. Like the people who subscribe. I appreciate that. We posted some reels. Did you guys see some of the reels my son posted last night? All right. Final call. Okay. Good job with this. So Belichick is from McAfee, correct?
yet.
Okay, let's do those two. Let's lead with that.
Okay.
AOC on first impression. Who is that? Getsy?
Yeah.
Did he speak today?
No, this was from
Okay.
2 days ago.
Okay, let's go.
You're listening to the JT the Brick Show, where the Raider Nation has come to sound off and react for over 20 years.
Good night.
At the end of the year was nice. Allegiant Stadium started to turn into a home field advantage. You hear the roaring crowd. Well, to me, it's not just on the pitch, it's right, and it's our way. Vegas is the global hub of the Raider Nation. Now it's got to act that way every home game. Raider Nation, as I always say, you show up and we'll show out. JT the Brick.
It's a real thing. It's a tangible thing. You get in the building and you feel it.
It's a war to track down Kansas City. I've always been a big fan of running the football. Head up is in here, cut to the right side. First down 35, first 40, down to 50. Here's that 40, 35, 30, ends up here white. Oh, if you're so no way Raiders win.
I'm always in track to just compete, and it's a great weekend.
Raider Nation unite. Here's Jim.
Out of the gate, JT, we're rolling today. A week from today is the NFL draft. How big is that? One of my favorite times of the year is we got you covered here on the flagship of the Silver and Black. This is Raider Nation Radio, 9:20 a.m. in Vegas. We're on the app, the Raiders app. We're at LV Sports Network, and we're on YouTube where I'm streaming live, and my YouTube buddies are already in there. Glenn, Ty, and MB, and Trucker Mark. Appreciate Willie, everybody who gets in there early. You hear about the show before it starts. Get an opportunity to have a conversation and keep it rolling as I prepare for the show. Big morning. I just left the Raiders Partnership Summit at the Mandalay Bay Convention Center, where I emceed a panel with the president, Sandra Douglas Morgan, the GM, Tom Telesco, and the head coach, Antonio Pierce. That's an honor for me to have an opportunity to do that and sit up on a stage with the partners of the Raiders. Here's what I can tell you. It wasn't a deep dive into the draft. No, it was just about business, mostly about business. And I love business. I love business. I don't think you should be in radio without a business. I don't think you should do anything in life without a business plan. I don't think you should go to work every day without a 401k and a savings account. I don't think you should get up and go to bed at night without a financial plan, or you're working for free. You're working for free if you don't have a plan in life, and you'll be working late into life if you don't have a plan. And sitting in front of all those partners today, and this isn't a shot at other markets, but this is way different who's in this room. I mean, these are the A-list of the A-list partners of an NFL team, which happens to be in Vegas. So you can imagine MGM and all the big resort properties, Wynn, the people that were in there today, we're all there as part of a whole day summit with the business partners of Mark Davis and the organization and the community here in Las Vegas. I moved to Vegas in 1996, and there were big casinos and there were big business. But what I've seen in the last 5 years in my life in Vegas is mind-blowing. And a lot of people who are no longer with the Raiders had a lot to do with bringing that here. And that's really important. And the people that are here are trying to build on that business. But to understand what the Raiders have here. And I know most of the fans, they don't care. They just want to win. I know everybody else wants to win too. Everybody on the panel today is desperate to win. But when you have good business partners and you're building a business like the Raiders here in Southern Nevada, I'm telling you, they're very fortunate. These are people that have influence in every lane in this town, from politics to gaming to sports. So it was an honor today to be up there on stage for a good hour and talk about business. And then we talked with Tom Telesco about his process of the draft and Antonio Pierce and what he had to say. And that fuels my monologue, brought to you by PT's last Golden Knights hockey regular season game of the year. I think I'll be in the building, so I'm looking forward to that, and a lot's at stake. Danny will come on a little bit later and walk us through what has to happen. Before I get back to the Raiders, I want to say this, and this hopefully will resonate with our listeners all over. Whenever you fear your opponent in the first round of the playoffs in any sport, just get out of the playoffs. You know, big talk around hockey now is, well, if they lose this game and this team wins, they won't have to play there. What are you talking about? You're still going to have to beat the team to win the championship. Well, the road will be easier in the first round. Okay, great example is the Lakers. Lakers didn't tank their game in New Orleans. Lakers won. What'd that give them? Oh, they got to go to Denver to play the reigning champs. They're not going to beat Denver. Well, my guy Stephen A. had to do a show today. So in order to get the crowd lathered up, my friend Stephen A. had to go on and say, LeBron can win this. And that's what gets people talking. I look at it this way with the Raiders especially. The Raiders' path to winning the Super Bowl in the short term is most likely the wild card. The wild card means you're going to open up on the road and play the entire playoffs on the road. Your odds go down historically big when you're playing on the road throughout the postseason. Now, can the Raiders beat Kansas City this year in the division and have a home playoff game? You would hope for that. But that's hard. There's not going to be anybody on the Vegas Strip. There's not going to be anybody behind the glass in the sports book. These are the men and women that have the season total at 6.5. You think the people that picked the Raiders to only win 6.5, which would mean over under 7, are going to pick the Raiders to host playoff games in the postseason? You're nuts. But that's what we're optimistic about. So when it comes to the Golden Knights, year one, when no one thought they existed, they went to the Stanley Cup final. They took on Danny's Capitals and lost to Alex Ovechkin. They weren't worried about who they had to play. They beat everybody and got to the Stanley Cup. Last year, they won the Stanley Cup. Never talking about who they had to play. And now this year, I'm hearing whispers and hushed tones. Oh, my God, we might have to open in Edmonton. Oh, but if we lose, we could. If the Kings win, we can go to Dallas. We can do this. Doesn't matter. You got to win. And they're getting healthy, and it's going to be great. For me, I need them to win a couple of rounds because I got to do a radio show. For some fans, I even heard a fan tell me yesterday, oh, my God, my tickets cost so much. I'm going to sell a game. Oh, here we go again. What's going on, Vegas? You're going to sell your playoff tickets to the other team so you can make a profit? Look, I'm not the Twitter police, but I'd throw you in Twitter jail if I found out you were selling your tickets to Edmonton fans. If we end up playing Edmonton game 3, there's going to be about 2,000 Edmonton fans on Toshiba Plaza looking to buy your tickets. You can feel good about selling them? For what? It's a dream in life to get in the playoffs. So that's what's happening now. Great athletes love a challenge. There's going to be a challenge here for our reigning Stanley Cup champs, and there should be. The Stanley Cup champs. They should have to climb a mountain again. Hopefully they're able to do that. And if not, we're going to have a problem here in town because I don't want to. Hockey goes into what, like mid-June, July? We didn't go in July, late June, right, Danny? Like mid-June. Remember one year we were worried about the last series about the ice melting, how hot it was here in Vegas. So I wanted to mention that as we open up the show. So sitting on the panel today in MC, and I was asking the questions to the president, Sandra Douglas Morgan, about the brand and how the brand makes money going forward and all this. Very compelling conversation. And then I shifted to Tom Telesco, the GM of the team. And he told some really good stories. He really did. He told some stories about, making that call. He was in charge of the GM coalition during COVID. Remember when they made the decision that during COVID, you couldn't have the draft, you had to have it at your home? And he told the story about hosting the draft with the Chargers in his house with his wife and kids and running it out of his home. I never heard that story and how buttoned up he was. And when he drafted Justin Herbert, they didn't have a big video board at the facility. He just looked at him on FaceTime and saw the look on the kid's face when he got drafted number 1 overall. You can tell that he's different. You can tell that he's buttoned up. You can easily tell that he has a plan in place. This wasn't one of those panels, hey, you're going to trade up from 13. None of that. You're not going to come out in a bunch, at a convention center and tell people who he's drafting. But I really got a good feeling about him going forward because of his plan and what he's going to do. And he's talked about the war room and how quick it goes. And Tom Telesco told the crowd what happens after day 2. Once you get into the 5th round and everything goes in 5-minute staggers, you got to be quick. You got to have that room locked in. You got to know what you're going to do before your pick, let alone trading up and all that. And he's got experience. Tom Telesco's the GM of the Raiders because the Raiders need experience at this point in the history of the franchise. Nothing against Dave Ziegler, who did it for the first time. He was the rookie GM. I thought he did a pretty good job. Tom Telesco is a veteran GM, and now he's in charge of what's going to be one of the most important picks. The first ever pick in Vegas history was Henry Ruggs III. A great kid, an amazing kid at that time. He did everything right. And then he was a part and the leader, unfortunately, of one of the biggest horrific accidents and tragedies in the history of Southern Nevada, in the history of the NFL. Okay? The character of him coming in was at a very, very, very high level. So we don't have him anymore. And if he was playing and wasn't a part of that and wasn't the leader of that accident, he might be a great player now. Not good, great. That's behind us. But we'll never forget about Tina Tintor. I say her name. I say her name whenever I bring up Ruggs. Then you got Damon Arnett. That was a reach. That was a reach because the Raiders didn't have a pick in the second round, and they reached on a guy who was a terrible, bad guy. But it didn't show up in his meetings at Ohio State, didn't show up in his visits because he was buttoned up and ready to tell everybody how good of a guy he was. That was a miss. Then you start going down the list of some of the players that have been picked who were all picked at the time for the right reason and picked to try to help the Raiders going forward. So a lot of the ways I prep for my radio show is I call friends. I call friends, and some of them are former players, former executives. And I talked to a caller today that I'll leave off the air because that's what I like to do. Call my friends. If you're a caller and you're my friend, some of the callers have been to my wedding, been over it. So there's a few guys that I hold to high regard. I think you know some of them. Well, today, a gentleman told me something very interesting. If we didn't, quote, whiff with so many first-round picks lately, we'd be in a position where we wouldn't have to fill out the roster. Then we could go big game hunting in the Serengeti, and we can go for trading 3 first-round picks to get a luxury item like Jaden Daniels. But because, and again, this is not personal, it's fact, because of the failures of some of these first-round picks, we're still trying to figure out and complete the roster build. We're not even done building the roster. Imagine if the players were still on this team. Jonathan Abram, Josh Jacobs, great player, by the way. Love everything about Josh Jacobs. And the players that I referenced before, and they were on year 2 contracts, second cycle contracts. Be a completely different draft. So Tom Telesco is brought in here to fix it. Get the first round pick right. Get it right, and let's move on from there. Let's go to bed on Thursday night, have the pick. He's a great player. He's going to start. Then we'll go into day 2. Don't know if he's going to trade up. If he does trade up, we might not have a day 2 pick at the second, third round pick. If Jaden Daniels is 3 first rounders and a second and a third, might not have anything, but I doubt that's going to happen. And we'll talk to Bucky Brooks. How about this show today? Warren Sharp, one of the elite analytical minds in all of football. I mean, he is as sharp as it gets. He'll dive in at 12:40. We'll jump into the Raider draft. 1:30, Bucky Brooks from NFL Network and the work he does with the Raiders. He's going to come in at 1:30. And then the Hall of Famer Warren Moon. Warren Moon wasn't allowed to come to the NFL. He wasn't. He was the number 1 pick. Should have been the number 1 pick. And no one believed in the league at that time that he could play quarterback, even though he was a Rose Bowl MVP, a franchise college quarterback, and they made him go to Canada. And he won 5, not 1 Grey Cups until they brought him back here, and he was the number 1 free agent and went on to the Hall of Fame. I always say this. I'm not going to say it when Warren's on hold. I say it all the time. Imagine the injustice that this league did to one guy, Warren Moon. Think of this for a second. If Warren Moon came in as a rookie today and had Warren Moon's career, plus you added 5 more years to what Warren Moon had now when he retired, they did him an injustice. They didn't believe in the black quarterback. They didn't believe in the African-American quarterback. We know Al Davis did, but Al Davis had a quarterback at that time, a really good one. But the rest of the league didn't want to take a flyer on Warren Moon. Look at what his stats are and imagine what they would have been with 5 more seasons of 4,000 yards. Man, we've come a long way, haven't we, as a society? We really have. The fact that Warren Moon, there should be a statue outside the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, for what Warren Moon accomplished after they made him go to Canada. They made him go. They didn't give him an option in the NFL. It's shocking to me. I think of that every time we interview him. So the show's loaded up. Let's hear from you at 702-365-9200. So my buddy who I talked to on the way to the Mandalay Bay today said, yeah, he goes, I go, what do you think we should do with the first pick? He goes, well, if we didn't whiff on the first round, half the time we've been here in Vegas, I'd say go big, because we can't. We have to fill out the roster. We have to take Fuaga at number 13, the right tackle. He's a Raider. He's a beast. He's a monster. He looks like a Raider. He acts like a Raider. Take him and go to bed Thursday and come back Friday. So, man, that sounded good, man. You're right. We take one of these giant right tackles and we just park him there and make him a starter, a bookend to Colt Miller, a great Raider. You got to feel pretty good, because every game, if the Raiders had to play this Sunday, there was an emergency meeting and said, everybody get to the facility. We got a game Sunday. The Raiders can win with Gardner Minshew. They can win with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. There's no doubt the ball with Zeus, because the offensive line. And I want to make it clear here. Look, you want to get an offensive lineman in the second round. Go ahead and do that, because I think the O-line has to have a little bit of depth to it. But I think overall, I'm starting to, let me say this right, Danny, before I get clipped, which is a big term now in video, before I get clipped. I'm leaning back. I want a quarterback badly right at the top of the draft, but I'm leaning now heavy over the last couple of weeks with the help of our audience to right tackle. There's just too many good ones. And the draft isn't going to start till pick number 5. And we just got to make sure that if we're in the market for Penix at 13, which would be the 5th quarterback taken, we better make sure at 13 we're not in the market for the 4th offensive tackle. I'm hoping that Roma Dunze, Neighbors out of LSU, Marvin Harrison Jr., the next wannabe, Devontae Adams guys, I'm hoping that those 3 wide receivers and the 4 quarterbacks get us to 7. And now we're talking about 6 picks away. And I don't think 4 right tackles are going to go. But with Joe Alt going quickly, I think he'll go to Tennessee. I hope there's not another right tackle. What happens if the Chargers go right tackle? What happens if the Jets, instead of taking a tight end, go right tackle? And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, my God, we're picking 13. They just took 2 right tackles, and one's the one we wanted. Did we slide into the cornerback groove? Because there's going to be no cornerbacks taken off the board until 13 minimum. Do we go get the corner there? The only reason I'd get the corner is if Fuaga was gone, or Latham was gone, or the big proven offensive tackles who should start in Las Vegas day 1. So those are some of the things that I'm talking about as we open up the show. The other thing, I've been very passionate about Bill Belichick. I love Bill Belichick because I love his legacy. I think he's the greatest coach of all time. Not in the top 3, top 4. Sorry for everyone. I love John Madden. I love Coach Flores. I grew up with Parcells, Don Shula, Tom Landry. Belichick's better. His resume's better, period. If you argue that point, then just get out of the sports bar and walk out. Don't pay your tab. I'll pay it for you. You sound like an idiot. Belichick's at 1. He's on the Mount Rushmore, and he's just getting beat up now. Everybody's saying, you believe that Robert Kraft called the owner? I do. Called the owner of Atlanta, the Home Depot billionaire, Arthur Blank, and said, you're going to have problems if you take this guy. And that blew up the Belichick deal. Now Belichick has to go on the Pat McAfee show, which is the biggest brand in sports other than my guy Stephen A. It's a huge brand. McAfee's been massively successful here. And he went on to talk about this draft information now, how the agents sometimes get involved with this. They start blowing smoke and players start to come and go. Yeah, and the teams that do that are pretty stupid, but you never know. An agent, and I talked to a lot of football players that thought that they were going to go somewhere because their agent told them they were going somewhere. They thought they were going to go somewhere, and all of a sudden, it's over. The agent has to tell the player in the green room, whoa, they called me and said they were picking you at 12. They told me. And then you're in the green room till 26. And you're like, what happened? Well, things change. It's a business. So I'll dive into that a little bit later on in the show and some of the expectations that we see with some of these players coming in. Because Jaden Daniels is very high up on everybody's list. Jaden Daniels is going to go number 2 to the Commanders, I think. I thought it was Drake May for about 6 months, and now I believe it's going to be, I really do believe it's going to be Jaden Daniels. And the other big news today is Elliott Wolf, son of Ron Wolf, who's a Hall of Famer for the Raiders. It looks like Elliott Wolf is putting out smoke screens that the Patriots are open to trading the number 3 pick, but like the quarterbacks too. Duh. Like who wrote that headline? Elliott Wolf, ESPN.com. Patriots opening to trade number 3 pick, but they like the quarterbacks. Well, if they like the quarterbacks, then why are they opening to trading the number 3 pick? Can you imagine the Patriots who had Tom Brady, who looks good? He's working out. Oh, Raider Nation internet's breaking. You see that, Danny? Tom Brady's running without a shirt on. He looks ripped. The guy's like Benjamin Button. He's getting younger. And some people are going, whoa, could Brady come here? Okay, we're not going to do that today. But Elliott Wolf, if he wants to trade out of that number 3 pick, it could be too late. If Jaden Daniels is gone at 2 and that number 3, Drake May's available, I don't know, Tom Telesco might like Drake May more than he liked Justin Herbert. He didn't tell me that today at the Partners Summit, but you never know. So if you want to get a quarterback, you better be ready to make a trade with the Commanders or the Patriots. And wow, is it going to be expensive? Man, is it going to be expensive to go out and get one of those quarterbacks. That's why taking right tackle seems to make more sense as we open up the broadcast today. Isaac, start us off on the flagship of the Silver and Black. Go ahead.
Hey, JT, great show. Just want to talk about the draft here. I'm in agreement with you. I would love to trade up and get a quarterback, but I just think it's going to be too pricey. I just remember back to like around 2000 when Gruden made his first stint, when we were a few players away. I think we're still about 2 years away on our roster. So I've been leaning more towards the right tackle, cornerback. When we had that great team back in the early 2000s, remember Eric Allen and Charles Woodson starting our outside out there. And now that we got the defensive line. But another great point you made was the move to Vegas. I think has been awesome. I was really sad to see them leave Oakland, but financially, I think they're going to be in the top 3 as far as value to the NFL and their franchise. Really great. But my question would be, if you were going to build this roster, I think we could do a right tackle and then trade back into the first round, which I think would be a cheaper option, and draft like a Penix and run with that. What do you
appreciate the call. I don't agree with that because I think Penix will be gone. So I've been saying that and preaching that. Thanks for your phone call. That's a very important point for our new audience, maybe tuning in for the first time on YouTube or one of our other platforms. If I thought that Penix would be available later in the first round, I would trade back to go get him. There's no guarantee. Penix is hot right now. He is super hot. Everybody's on Penix. What are you going to do? Trade out of 13 to go to what? Think he's going to be there at 28? And then what? Let's say you're right there. Let's say you're right. And you get the tackle. We get the tackle, say we get Fuaga at 13. And then all of a sudden, first round's cruising along and we're at pick number 19, pick number 20. And there's no Michael Penix off the board. Then if Tom Telesco picks up the phone and says, man, I didn't expect him to be there. Let's go get him. And here's the package. We're going to give you our first rounder next year. And we're going to give you our second rounder tomorrow. And we're going to give you blah, blah, blah. And they go get him. I mean, the Raider draft party, I might have to go ask Mark to keep it going till 1 a.m. I like to go late. The draft party, those parties always end a little bit sooner than later. If we were able to trade into the first round, I might have to call the owner and say, let's keep this party going. And that's a best case scenario. I think too highly of Penix to think he's going to be available. I say don't get cute. Don't get cute thinking you're going to get a player later. If you like the player, get him now. And best case scenario for the Raiders would be to get out of the first round with 2 picks, a right tackle and a quarterback, and then wow, off to the races. 702-365-9200. Again, tonight's the last game of the year, regular season game. You're going to watch it at PT's. They're going to have parties throughout the valley here coming in. Imagine that. 5 to 7, midnight to 2. You can watch the hockey game, half-price drinks, great food, gaming, entertainment, and all. PT is proud partner of our show. Those who don't know Warren Sharp, you're about to get your mind blown. It's like going to Harvard and Stanford with NFL analytics. I'm going to stick with the draft and a couple of the players that I like. We'll hear what he has to say. Also, his opinion on the Raiders' strength of schedule. This is like Russell Crowe in A Beautiful Mind. You can throw a billion numbers at this guy, including the Raiders' strength of schedule. I don't know if you're going to like what he has to say. How come every year the Raiders' schedule is blank? For me, it's usually harder than I want it to be. And there's something weird. There's something weird in it, like bye week, week 11, or something just stupid. We'll find out what he thinks is going to happen with the Raiders schedule. You don't want to miss that. That's coming up here in about 10 minutes. Also, Bucky Brooks. And we'll talk to Warren Moon in a little over an hour. Again, great morning at the Raiders Summit. Thanks to the proud partners of the Silver and Black. And thanks to our partners, one who was there as a proud partner, Modelo, the #1 beer in America. I have a bucket of Modelo's on Friday. I might move it up till Thursday. I'm so fired up for the draft. 1 week away, the draft begins on the flagship of the Silver and Black. All right.
Whatever Max ends up doing in his career production-wise.
What's happening, everyone?
Awesome, but the thing that I always take away from him is how he frames his.
And why is it so hot in here?
Because I
Woo.
think
It's hot over here. It's super cold.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
If he wasn't sober.
Jaden to Washington to smokescreen. I think they want May. All right.
The Morning Tailgate, weekdays at 7 a.m. on Raider Nation Radio, 920 a.m.
Injured in a crash? Call Sam and Ash at 702-820-1234. That's 702-820.
Nice move with the headphones. Yeah, that's really all I can do, man. We can't figure out the software to bring in the show into my laptop because of the legalities on YouTube with the commercials. So we're trying to buy a splitter, a mute button, all this bullshit that I don't really want to deal with. I'm too busy focusing on the show. That's why we're trying to bring the show into this 25-minute monologue, and that's what we're going to be stressing going forward. Be right back.
This Lotus Cares message is brought to you by Lerner & Rowe Personal Injury Law Firm. April is National Stress Awareness Month. Managing stress is an essential component of a healthy lifestyle. Get extra sleep, extra walks in on your day, and add more fruits and veggies to your diet. For more info, check out heart.org. This Lotus Cares message is brought to you by Lerner & Rowe, voted best personal injury law firm. Call 702-877-1500.
Finley Volvo invites you to discover the first pure electric SUV from Volvo, the XC40 Recharge. Volvo's first battery electric SUV is fully connected, featuring the first infotainment system designed and built by Google and powered by Android.
Hey Google, turn up the heat.
With Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store built in, along with legendary Volvo safety, it's the SUV you've been waiting for. Learn more about the XC40 Recharge at FinleyVolvo.com.
Modelo is an official cerveza of the Las Vegas Raiders and the JT the Brick Show. Modelo Especial is a rich, full-flavored Pilsner-style lager.
My Knicks are playing the Sixers, man. I like that.
Fighting spirit since 1925.
Ask Sherwin-Williams.
Oh, no problem, Glenn. I say everybody's name if they're up there. I appreciate everybody being here. Warren's going to call us at 12:40.
That means 40% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing
And we're moving Warren Moon to
And of course,
115.
get 40% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
The standard line.
Yeah, standard line.
BT's Taverns is your home to catch all the baseball and Vegas Golden Knights games this April. Take a swing at month-long drink specials from $6. Plus, ask your bar host how you can.
And I just sent you the number on your text for Warren, 115.
Enjoy the best happy
Yep.
hour in town with 50% off drinks 5 to 7 p.m. and 12 to 2 a.m. daily. With over 65 taverns, there is always a location near you. To find yours, visit ptstaverns.com today.
There's a new men's apparel brand in Vegas. You should check them out. They're called Hammermade, and you won't find a better looking, more sophisticated. Hey, you hear the spot for Hammermade?
Yeah.
I'm going to do a live read for it if you can just grab it. Just
right now.
Yeah, I'll do it coming out.
And now it's time to let Hammermade outfit you for the spring. It's the Viva La Spring promotion. Save up to $50 on the newest styles or win a Hammermade shirt. Check them out at the forum shops at Caesar's Palace or at hammermade.com. Don't just wear a shirt, wear a Hammermade.
Give Me The VIN.com is America's best car buyer, paying top dollar for your car, truck, sports car, exotic. What are you waiting for? We want to buy your car right now. Find out why. Thousands of satisfied customers across the United States.
Who's going to call off this YouTube? Who's going to call the show from here? 365.
Right now is the time to go.
Sell us your car. GiveMeTheVIN.com. So easy you can do it in your underwear.
Trevino at second, 3-2. Runners go. The pitch right on the ground, past the diving of Clement into left field. It kicks off the sidewall. 1 run scores. 2 runs score. Stopping at third is Soto. Judge has given the Yankees the lead in the top of the ninth. A 2-run single for the captain, and the Yankees are ahead 6-4.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by PT's, the best happy hour in town, 5 to 7 p.m. and midnight to 2 a.m.
Wow, Danny, thanks for that Yankees highlight there. How about that, Judge? I think he was 0 for 13 in the series until he got that hit, and it was a big one there, proving that the next at-bat is always great when it comes to baseball. JT, back with you. You just heard that spot, and I want to personally tell you about Hammermade shirts. Incredible. They're now a proud partner of our show. You can shop the Hammermade collections by going to hammermade.com. I just got the performance stretch shirts, the button downs, a whole bunch of nice dress shirts, and it's fantastic. When you go out at night in Vegas, you want to be sporty, you want to look sharp. Hammermade, fantastic. Inside Caesars, wherever you want to find it, I'd recommend going to the site, hammermade.com, and get a selection that you like. It's fantastic, from the new arrivals to the outlet, sports coats, and they have these limited edition shirts that are fantastic. You can shop online and go get it at hammermade.com. Appreciate everybody being in our YouTube page. So last night I watched the NBA again, and Atlanta got smoked, which shows why, I'm up and down on this play-in tournament, because the Lakers won in the play-in tournament. That's good for the league. But Atlanta played last night in Chicago, and they got boat raced, and they should have never been in the playoffs. Should have never been invited into the playoffs. So they're on TV last night with a garbage record on primetime television because we want to give them a safety net. We want to give them a juice box. We want to tell them you're in the playoffs. Quinn Snyder, you're in the play-in game. No, you're not. You had a garbage season. Your team sucks, and now you want to be in the playoffs. And what happened? They went into the playoffs, and they got smoked. Couple of big injuries. Jimmy Butler, Zion Williamson, a lot of guys getting hurt in the first round of the playoffs here. Look, the NBA is tough. NBA is tough. People don't understand the wear and tear on these NBA players. Now, remember Bill Russell, one of the greatest champions of all time, right? Bill Russell with his 11 rings, 13 overall, the Olympic gold medals, the 2 titles in college. Bill Russell had to travel on a train. They didn't have a masseuse. He didn't stay at the Four Seasons. He didn't go down to the ballroom at night and go down there and eat salmon and go upstairs and have a DVD player to watch film. You got to remember about these star NBA players. Man, do they live the life. What a life they live. LeBron travels on a private jet, and LeBron's brilliant, 39. Private jet, beautiful ride to the team hotel. They only stay at the Four Seasons, the Fairmont, the nicest hotels. The food, the meal rooms, the private masseuse, whatever they need. Whatever they need. So you see guys get hurt from time to time because they play so aggressively. Now, yesterday something happened that I'm not very comfortable talking about on the radio. Yesterday, Caitlin Clark had a press conference, and a well-respected journalist from Indianapolis creeped her out. It broke the internet. So basically, he made the hand gesture, the love hand gesture, and Caitlin Clark looked over at him. And I'm not going to play it. We decided not to play the audio, and a lot of people have. It was on CNN this morning. It was on the Today Show. I said, we're not going to do that. But the problem was a really goofy guy who's not used to interviewing an iconic woman in sports, not used to it because he doesn't do that a lot, because Indianapolis doesn't have a female football team or hockey team, but they got Caitlin Clark. And he went up there and he asked a question, and it went over really awkwardly. And my wife didn't hear about it. And when she came home last night, I played it for her, and she's like, ooh, what happened with this? They didn't play it on SportsCenter. It's incredible how we consume media now. And if you saw it, you know what I'm talking about. It's kind of an uncomfortable topic. But the other big topic, which affects Vegas, is Mark Davis has a really good basketball team here, 2-time champs. And we're starting to find out what these women make. I can tell you, as a friend to Mark Davis, he will elevate salaries. Mark Davis will elevate the salaries of an entire sport, an entire demographic of a sport. You'll see Mark paying Asia Wilson, Kelsey Plum, Becky Hammond $1 million, more than the players can make. And then everybody saw Caitlin Clark's contract. And for 4 years, it was like 340 grand, Danny, or something like that. And the internet almost broke. Then another uncomfortable topic started brewing. The NBA subsidizing the WNBA, which there's a lot of truth to it. WNBA is the backbone. The NBA is the backbone of the WNBA. And the players don't get paid a lot. And they don't play as many games. And they don't have as big of a league with as many teams. And the NBA in the past has kept this sport afloat. Now with Caitlin Clark and Asia Wilson and Mark Davis with the team here in Vegas, things are starting to change. Okay, so if it took till 2024 or 2022 to start moving the salaries upwards and getting bigger attendance and higher ratings, all of a sudden this young gal named Caitlin Clark comes along and it's going to change everything. And we need that. I don't want to compare it to other men in sports and men, because people have said, compare it to Jackie Robinson, compare it to Andy Messersmith. You might not know that name. Free agents, the first free agents, Kurt Flood in baseball. You can do whatever you want. I'm not telling you there's any rules here. But what Caitlin Clark is doing, along with Mark Davis's influence on salary structure in Las Vegas and what he's building this massive practice facility and all that. They play in Michelob Ultra. They're going to sell out games. Caitlin Clark's going to come. There's going to be a line around the block, around the Mandalay Bay. This was, over the last 3 weeks for me, because the NFL draft is our top topic, one of the most refreshing and unique topics I've ever covered. You know, I grew up as a kid as a swimmer. My sisters were in the pool swimming. I was around female athletics my whole life. My sisters played softball. They were really good athletes. Then I've been in radio for 27 years. I've covered female athletics, but never at the rate that I covered it the last 3 weeks. So over the last 3 weeks, I've learned a lot about the history of the WNBA, salary structure, and all of that. And it all changed because of a girl from Iowa named Caitlin Clark. And we all happen to be living through it right now in real time. So men are going to creep out women. Male journalists are going to say stupid things because people haven't been in this situation before, because they're overwhelmed by this young girl who's now, she's going to make 300 plus grand. Let's say it's 400 salary. She's signing $1 million, multi-million-dollar Nike contract for a new shoe. Now, do people think she's going to make 3 or 4 million a year playing basketball? Probably not. But I won't say that can't happen in my lifetime. I won't say that Mark Davis and his fellow owners can't move the needle on those salaries even higher in the next 2 to 3 years. So it's a big topic that I wanted to mention because I think it's important, because I think there's a Vegas connection with Caitlin Clark. I really do. And what we're seeing here with Mark Davis and the Aces. When we come back, Warren Sharp's going to join us again. I think this will definitely blow you away, what he has to say about the Raiders draft, some of the analytics, some of the numbers that he's looking at that I don't look at that could play a role coming up here in the draft, and the Raiders' strength of schedule as we continue on the flagship of the Silver and Black, Brought to you by the M Resort Spa and Casino, where I saw Patrick Durkin today, the GM, great partner of our show. Thanks to the M Resort, proud partner of the Silver and Black. Okay.
We just had to get another commercial.
Yep, I know. Yep. Commercials. We got to play commercials. Yep.
Yeah, they're not putting out the exact number, but they believe her shoe contract is $20 million.
20 million?
Yeah, that's what Sean Charnier
Yeah, wow.
said on.
Caitlin Clark, you're saying 20 million for a shoe contract. So yeah, it's probably 2 or 3 million a year. It's not, but that's the entirety of it.
I don't know. They didn't say how long her contract was.
Just signed into law, recognizing the
Or how
third
many
week of March
shoes.
as Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Week in Nevada. David Hum, known as the original Las
Raider
Vegas
Nation
Raider,
Radio.
died of MS in 2018. Now, David's legacy is helping
Hey, Warren,
expand
how are you?
access to MS care in his native Nevada. Learn more
Doing
at
well. All right, we are currently in
clevelandclinic's.org/MS
a
week.
commercial
That's
break for about another
clevelandclinic.org/MS
2.5, maybe 3
week.
minutes. But
Sponsored
as
by
soon as we come
Cleveland
back, we'll
Clinic,
get
Nevada,
going,
in
okay?
cooperation with the Nevada Broadcasters Association
All right,
and
thank you
this
very
station.
much.
Power your adventures with the all-electric 2024 Subaru Solterra.
Yeah, just come right back to me. No
It's the most
rejoin.
advanced
Yep.
Subaru ever, with our latest safety technology and zero emissions.
What else, friends? Pigs, Pig.
2024 Subaru
Damon Allen
Solterra.
was a.
Love is now electric. Come to Finley Subaru
okay.
of Las Vegas and get 0% APR.
There should be a
financing
WNBA
on
team in Toronto.
2024
Some of the
Subaru
WNBA
Solterra
teams
models.
are awful. They don't make
Las
any
Vegas.
money. They won it. Are they looking into it?
Yeah, they want to go.
Banks typically only lend
When
money
they had
to
the
people
All-Star
who
game
have
last
good
year,
credit.
the
How
commissioner
does
said
that
if
work
it
in
weren't
dollar
for
amounts?
COVID, they
You know
would
that nearly
already have
40% of the population has a credit score of less than 550 or doesn't have a checking account, and 1 in 4 over 20.
I think Angel Reese going to Chicago is big.
What's my
Oh,
point?
yeah.
Try going to a bank to borrow a couple grand for a few weeks. They have no idea how to help you. And like it or
Yeah,
not, it's
Caitlin
the
Clark,
exact
when they come
banking
here, they already
transaction
moved the
that
game.
most people
It's
really
not going
need.
to be as
Been there and
Android,
done
it's like
that.
mobile.
It's the norm these days.
We process hundreds of loans every day, most in less than 30 minutes, and your first week is free.
That was Chuck, and DLC continues to be your community lender by offering free loans to all new customers. No fee to apply and a week of free interest.
All right,
We have
Fabian.
over 50 locations.
Bay Area
Apply
doesn't
over the
get
phone or online
WNBA.
at don'tbebroke.com.
Fabian, I missed the Bay Area. I was also telling my wife, I can't remember the last time I got on a plane and flew to Oakland.
It's
And
Ash from Salmon
I
Ash and
commuted to
At
Oakland
Salmon
twice
Ash,
a
we
week
don't
for
just handle
17
cases.
years.
We take care of people.
Hey, man,
Sam and I
I'm on the
started this
radio.
law
I'll play
firm
what
to
about an
provide
hour.
injury victims with unmatched customer
Two.
service. We keep our clients
Okay,
informed
yeah,
as we
okay.
walk them through the legal process with patience and clear communication. So if you've been hurt in a crash, call Sam and Ash.
Nice sunny day today.
702-820-1234 or visit
Starting to
salmonashslaw.com.
heat up.
Sam and Ash.
Fabian, you forget it should be a
What's
nice
right?
sunny day every day. It's if you live in California. Like some people get I was just in San Diego. It was raining. LA had more rain this year than they've had in like 40 years. You California people, you're supposed to have nice weather because you pay federal tax, state tax. Fabian, how much of your salary, how much of your pension, your money goes to taxes? You got to come to Vegas, man. We got no state taxes out here.
Turkey, bacon, avocado, turkey, bacon, avocado,
Yeah.
turkey, bacon, avocado. Need we say
All right,
more?
great.
What
We're
if Sub's
coming
turkey,
back in
bacon,
about
avocado
20
sub
seconds.
will be your new obsession with its
All right,
next level
thank you.
flavor. Sliced fresh, premium turkey with crispy bacon and creamy avocado on your choice of fresh baked bread, loaded with your favorite toppings. Try it with our garlic parmesan bread for an extreme wow. Get your TBA at Port of Subs today or order online at portofsubs.com.
All right, here we go.
Hot snort.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show. Brought to you by the Black Hole. Become a member of football's most notorious fans.
I'm a big fan of Warren Sharp. He's one of the brightest minds of all time, I think. I live by his analysis. I have his site here in front of me, winning 60% on game totals for more than a decade. I love his look at numbers in sports, and he's kind enough to join us ahead of the draft. Warren, appreciate you coming on. I want to jump right into the Raiders. But the first thing I want to ask you is about this. Your strength of schedules always fascinate me. Before they actually come out and we know when the dates are, How much analysis do you put into this, and what is your secret sauce to defining a team's difficulty when it comes to their schedule coming out?
Yeah, I put a lot of work into it, but honestly, it's easy to replicate year after year doing it for so many years. But I took a different approach to calculating strength of schedule maybe 7 or 8 years ago. The national media generally looks at your 2023 win-loss results, and then they use that to calculate your 2024 strength of schedule. And that's the complete backwards way to look at it, because you're looking past, and we know these teams aren't what they were last season. And so what I did, like I said, 7, 8 years ago, started looking at the win totals that were posted on these teams as a forecast, and then utilizing those win totals to help calculate schedule for this upcoming season, which is more predictive. And the results have been pretty accuracy utilizing this tactic. It's not perfect. There are very many times when it's the easiest teams or the hardest teams. Those teams end up having the schedules like we're predicting. And for the Raiders, I have them playing the 9th most difficult schedule this upcoming season after playing a league average difficulty of schedule last season. And they don't really have the massive cupcakes on their schedule this year like they did last year when they were able to go against teams like the Giants or the Jets or the Patriots or the Colts or the Bears. This year they do have to play some more challenging teams in addition to the AFC North. Now, the NFC South, that's a weaker division. Obviously, you still have the Carolina Panthers there. That team might still be considered as a cupcake team. But the Falcons and the Saints and the Bucks, these are teams that are middling teams. Obviously, we know the Falcons got a lot better with their quarterback acquisition of Kirk Cousins this offseason. And so I think all of those teams are going to hover right around 500. So you're not going to play as many teams that were as bad as they were last season. And it's just going to make it more challenging this upcoming season. And I know your coach. I know Antonio Pierce. If you guys want to be able to pound the ball in the second half and put games away, and in order to do that against more difficult schedule, you're going to have to figure out a way to jump out to leads a little bit faster. Because if you get down, then all of a sudden you've got maybe a less experienced or a less effective quarterback trying to come back in games late, and that's not going to be the recipe for success.
Warren Sharp is our guest. Warren, what do you think about the Raiders sitting at 13 overall? That's kind of no man's land in a way, but they had to win games down the stretch. And as a gaming analyst, Antonio Pierce is not here. He doesn't keep his job from interim to head coach if he doesn't win. So the Raiders broke their all-time scoring record with 63. They beat Kansas City on Christmas Day, but they don't get a top 3 pick. And now everybody thinks outside the Raider organization that they want to move up for Jaden Daniels or go get a quarterback. How expensive is that at 13?
Yeah, it's going to be challenging because a lot of other teams are thinking along the same exact lines. There are plenty of teams that are in that, above average draft capital space, which the Raiders are. The Raiders, you guys have 8 picks. You have the 13th most value in the first 3 rounds of the draft. But in order to move up, you're going to be not only trying to leapfrog some teams that want a quarterback, but you're also going to be competing with others that might be further down that might be looking to make the same exact move as you guys are. Now, I know Tom Telesco's draft the last several years, he's focused on the offensive side of the ball with that first pick. He went after and secured Justin Herbert, and then he went and provided protection for Justin Herbert for the next 2 years, drafting offensive linemen in those first couple of picks. And then his second pick of all of those drafts, generally speaking, was something on the defensive side of the ball to impact the opposing passing offense. Multiple times it was a secondary player, and then one time it was a pass rusher. So he understands the value of passing the football and the importance that passing wins games in the NFL. You want to have a solid defense. You want to be able to run the football, obviously. But if you're going to be able to beat teams more consistently, you have to protect your quarterback, and you have to have a quarterback that's going to be efficient. So I know that they would want to make a splash, but as you indicated, it's going to be a challenge from a draft capital perspective and a competition perspective as to whether or not you can even get that guy. And, you're not looking at the number 1 or number 2 guy taken in the draft, right? You're going to be drafting a quarterback is the 3rd or 4th best player. So how much are you giving up to go after that 3rd?
Warren Sharp is our guest. Warren, I like the tweet you put out yesterday. You said which team should own the draft, an analysis of draft capital, how it compares to the prior years, and also draft capital since 2010. If you can simplify that for our audience and how you look at who should have an unbelievable Thursday to Sunday coming up next week.
Yeah, I mean, there are some teams that are in much better situations from a draft capital perspective historically have been in. A team like the Washington Commanders really stands out. They ranked second in draft capital this year, but they just have not had close to the level of draft capital that they have in this year's draft historically. I mean, I've been tracking this all the way since 1999 in terms of looking at, and the way that I account for draft capital, I don't use like the Jimmy Johnson chart value. I'm looking at a couple of different metrics, both on the likelihood of getting a second contract and how much money these picks are worth theoretically, as well as how much value that player at a certain position on average, how much that pick is worth in terms of their statistical contributions to their team. And so I meld those two types of stats together to come up with my draft capital analysis. And that's where Washington had anywhere close to where they're at right now with this draft. So they've got a lot of options. They've got a lot of picks. The Chicago Bears are that unique team where they're number 3 in draft capital. They have the first overall pick, but they only have 3 picks after that. Of course, one of them is inside of the top 10. But after that, they only have 2 picks in the draft. So those are a few teams. I do like the Green Bay Packers, thinking that they have a lot of draft capital. They were a playoff team last year. You know, not many of the teams that sit there inside of the top 10 in draft capital made the playoffs last year, were able to win games in the playoffs. And the Packers have a lot of picks, and they've got so many young players on their roster right now that they can bring these guys. They're going to meld in perfectly, in my opinion, with this young roster that they're currently developing. So, you know as well as I do, when it comes to the draft, it is very difficult to hit on players. And so having that dartboard approach where if you get 10 darts, you're more likely to hit a bullseye than if you only have 2 darts, that's something that the Green Bay Packers are going to be able to take full advantage of. And I mentioned, you guys are in a good position. It's nothing like more capital than you're used to, though. For some teams, they've got a lot more than they're used to. You guys are typically right around this range from a draft capital perspective. And in many years in the past, you've actually had more draft capital than this. So it's on Tom Telesco in the front office to identify some of those key needs to keep you guys competitive this season and into the future.
Warren Sharp, sharpfootballanalysis.com. You have to live by it. 2 more quick ones. You got a gut feeling on knowing Telesco and the pick and what they'll do, because everybody out here is talking quarterback, as you know, from Penix at 13 to trading up to Jaden Daniels. I think a right tackle makes sense, but looking at all the numbers and crunching them the way you do, with a team that has a roughly 6.5 win total for the year, what's the real big priority for the Raiders on Thursday?
Yeah, I mean, I would not be giving – you guys have so much work to do, in my opinion, that I would not be sacrificing too much capital unless you guys, in your meetings and interviews and things of that nature, were absolutely blown away by a prospect who you can move to get. Obviously, we know having that quarterback is the single most important thing to get. And if you are able to get a guy that you think is maybe the best guy in the draft, maybe the second best guy in the draft, and he's available as 4th overall quarterback, then I understand that. But barring that, one thing that absolutely needs to happen is whatever quarterback is there, you have to protect him. And so building along that offensive line and giving your quarterback some solid pass protection, it's important to hit on whoever you take. But I think that position has a quick drop-off in this draft. And I think you might want to be looking at the offensive line, in my opinion. I was surprised to see the Raiders have used the 3rd most draft capital of all 32 teams on defensive players the last 5 years. I think you've got to go with the offensive side of the ball. If that quarterback hasn't blown you away or you have to give up too much, I would look to the offensive line.
Warren, last one. How concerned are you, as one of the sharpest minds in sports and your analytics and your numbers, of young people now getting involved in sports gambling who have no clue what they're doing. They're watching commercials that say, fund your account and we'll give you back $100 in free bets if you lose. They're being taught to bet parlays. They have no idea what a parlay is. And these sportsbook companies are just lapping it up and basically saying, if you have a problem, call this number. And we don't know if anybody's going to pick it up. How big is this issue going forward?
Well, I think if you're just dabbling, if you're just kind of messing around and you're not that serious about it and you don't have a large bankroll that you're planning on putting on it, I'm fine with people trying to play around with things and experiment themselves a little bit as long as they don't put too much into it. But if you start putting a little bit, you want a bigger bankroll or you want to take this thing a little bit more seriously, then putting the research in is incumbent upon you. You have to go in there and actually look at the information, look at the data, understand, to your point about parlays, that this is not a successful long-term strategy. You've got to try to figure out and track the sports books aren't going to try to help you track what your best bets are. They're not going to try to help you figure out what sport you're best at or what type of bet in that sport you hit more often and where you lose more often. So it's incumbent upon you as a young bettor to go in there and whether you write it down or you put it into a spreadsheet, identify where you're having the most success and what types of bets seem to be working best for you. Start slow, try to be responsible, build that bankroll. Don't go overboard on the one pick or another. But in terms of kind of the commercials and the way that people are promoting it, it definitely does become a little bit concerning. And hopefully people don't lose and find out the hard way, that is the right strategy.
Warren, great catching up. I'll send everybody to all your platforms. I'm a big fan, as you know. Thanks for doing this ahead of the draft. I know your schedule. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
You got it. Warren Sharp coming in here. Very important at the end, what he said about young people gambling. Got to do your research. No, they're buying a bucket of beers. They're laughing. They're giggling. They're betting parlays and losing money. All of them. Literally all of them. Everybody's brand new and young. And it's not good. It's not going to end well. There we go. That was a good hour, Danny. Way to thread that needle. Next hour, Warren Moon. We move him up to 115. You can hear that on the Raiders mobile app and LV Sports Network. And then Bucky Brooks at the bottom of the hour. I thank my friends on YouTube. We did it again. Another strong hour on my brand new platform. Give it a follow, please. JT the Brick YT on YouTube. Be a part of what we're doing behind the scenes.
The defending
All
World
right,
Series
everybody. I hope
champs,
you
the
enjoyed
Texas
that.
Rangers,
Yes,
are
Glenn.
in
I hope you
Atlanta to
enjoyed
play the
Sharp. I don't know if you
Braves
heard it that
Sunday,
good, but I hope you
4
did. He
p.m.
was
Las
good.
Vegas, 1100 a.m.
He doesn't seem
1:09
optimistic on the Raiders. I'll tell you that much. He says they got a lot more work to do. A lot more.
Modelo is an official cerveza of the Las Vegas Raiders and the JT the Brick Show. Modelo Especial is a rich, full-flavored Pilsner-style lager, delivering a crisp, refreshing taste, brewed with fighting spirit since 1925.
Backing down has never been an option for our family. Our father battled communism in Cuba before coming to the U.S. and studying law at night. Today, we proudly carry on that Castroverde family legacy. As brothers raised to fight for what's right, care for those in need, treat clients like family, we bring the very best legal team to fight for you. It's our heritage. It's the Castroverde way. We're the Castroverde brothers, and we have your back.
BrothersWin.com. The wait is over. Port of Sub's customer favorite garlic parmesan is back by popular demand. Imagine the taste of your favorite sub elevated by soft, freshly baked bread sprinkled with the perfect blend of...
All right, everybody, we're out of here. Keep listening. Appreciate it. If you slip on over to radio or you go to the mobile app, appreciate it. Tomorrow we got another good show. Friday show, Jim Lampley. Jim Lampley, the legendary broadcaster, will join us at 12:30 and a couple other things I'm working on. So thanks for this week. We'll do another YouTube live stream tomorrow, probably from 12 to 1 o'clock or 12 to 12:45. It'll be our last Friday before the draft. Appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you so much. Hey, hit subscribe and hit like, and please do me a favor and share.